I'm Dane Sanders, and I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching. This is, I don't know what number episode this is, and I'm broadcasting from Dayton, Ohio. I apologize for the delay in today's show, but I think it's going to be worth the effort, given our guest. Our time is very limited today because David Duchemin is actually doing a meetup with Zack Arias in Atlanta, Georgia, and he has to bolt out of here, so we have to do this very quickly. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity to have him on and hear about his adventures and talk about how vision can relate and connect to what we do in business. So for those of you who haven't been on the show before, just so you know, it's a very quick conversation. If you want to get in on it, you jump online and click the light bulb and ask your questions, and you can be a part of it that way. That's probably the quickest way to do it. But I don't want you to miss out. So without further ado, I want to bring on my friend David Duchemin. David, welcome to the show. This has been
Thanks, Dane.
A long time coming, and I know you've been in the midst of a lot of adventures. You're welcome. Could you share a little bit about what your journey's been like the last month or so? Expedition to find and seek out your imagery that you've been after.
Yeah, it's been a really exciting adventure. About I don't know, maybe 5-6 months ago, I kind of decided that I needed to kind of mix things up a little bit, and ended up in when I was on assignment in Bosnia, kind of making a few decisions about some things, and so I'm now living in a 1993 Land Rover Defender named Jessie, and she's taken me around the continent. I'm doing a full circle around the continent, stopping in some places to shoot, in some places just stopping to enjoy the local clam chowder and the local beer or whatever. I just had a Budweiser and a basket of alligator and onion rings in Louisiana, and taking some time just to kind of reevaluate where things are at with my career and with the things that I love shooting, and along the way meeting up with some folks and writing bits and pieces for my blog. I've got some deadlines and that sort of thing for my book, and just kind of pursuing the adventure on the road.
Right on. Well, it's funny because the comments in the chat room are already in the category of, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could just kind of jump in and check out some alligators and do whatever I could in an adventure. And actually, it's the perfect segue to the topic at hand, which is around vision and how vision connects with business. And obviously, the site that you run, visionandcraft.com, is a fantastic resource for photography. And I saw that your new black and white book just came out, or a new author on your title came out yesterday, I think. And there's so many great resources there. But I'm really struck around vision as it relates to exactly what you're in the middle of. This idea of going on adventure and looking for ways to make your picture in your head of what you want your business to do a reality. And it seems like you really have a charmed life in the way that you have been able to really do the things that you're doing. And I'd like to hear a little bit about like what is your current, like up until now, until this adventure, what was your vision for how you wanted to run your business? And then how in the world did you find the resource to just go, jump in your car and do this kind of year-long trek iteration of your business and your life? We all want to hear.
Well, I think it's important to remember that everything's kind of everything's evolutionary. You don't just start off and go, I'm just going to do this thing, and boom, it happens. There were a number of things that came into play. I've been wanting to do this for a long, long time, or something similar to it. It was just a question of sort of some of the pieces in my life came together to do that, and that's not always a happy picture. I mean, some of the opportunities that I've had in life, I've reacted to, to things like divorce and bankruptcy, and you recover and you pick up, and those really difficult times in life give you an opportunity to pursue something else. So in terms of, jumping on the road, it's not that simple. I mean, I gave up my condo. I sold every piece of furniture that I owned. I have books and that sort of thing sitting in a storage locker in Vancouver, but otherwise I made some decisions. You don't have your cake and eat it too, so, or at least I don't. I can't afford to maintain a house in Vancouver, and so I just gave it all up, and I bought a truck that cost a lot of money because I wanted to drag me around the continent and off road in a lot of places. And you know, I had some difficulties. I think if people were betting, they would have bet Jesse wasn't going to make it even close to Atlanta. Um, but you know, my job, apart from writing and educating and that sort of thing, is sort of got to the point where writing the blog is one of the most important things that I can do. Twittering and staying in touch with a fan base and you know, meeting people for coffee. That now has become my job because my business is education primarily. And so in order to do that, I have to be constantly seeking my own vision, constantly shooting. And so you just look at what do I want to do and what is it going to take to make it happen? None of this stuff gets, you know, you said it, it seemed like I lead a charmed life. But the fact is, for everyone that looks that way, you're busting your ass to get it done and you're making decisions. So I'm a long way from home and my insurance is about to run out. We're working through some logistic issues, and once in a while, you know, something happens and there's a mechanical difficulty. But you know, all we have in life are these adventures and the relationships that come out of them. And so this, for me, has been one of the most exciting, rewarding times for a long time.
You know, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the authenticity of your circumstances that you're articulating, because that sounds entirely in line with almost everyone I know who's a creative professional and are honest about it, that it's never kind of roses and it really is more from an outside looking in. And again, the topic that I pitched was connecting vision for your business and your life and your craft and how that informs what you actually do. And on some level, what you're describing is you got into some of which you would, some of which you might not choose, and in the middle of that, you're trying to sort through, like every creative is, what does that mean for you, and how do you articulate that and live that out? And again, the overarching commentary in the chat room is, man, he's got big cojones. I can't believe he's doing this. It's really amazing. But on some level, isn't that really the mandate of all creatives? Just it's going to look different because their circumstances are going to be different. But there is this kind of requisite call to, you still have to follow wherever your muse takes you. And it sounds like that's what you're in the middle of, complication. Is that too simplified?
No, I think you have to remember that art never happens outside the context of fear. Art and fear are always connected. There's always risk. And I think anyone looking at this and says, you know what, that's easy for him, but I've got things I'm scared about. I've got things I'm nervous about. Courage is something that you have in the presence of fear. It's not the absence of fear. And there was some time that I was absolutely terrified of what lay ahead of me. I bought this old truck. I'm not mechanically inclined, or if I am, I never had experience or opportunity to find out if I was mechanically inclined. And you know, it's a right-hand drive vehicle, and I'm driving down the freeway, and there have been times when I've been, what's the word, terrified, actually. So you don't do this when you finally stop being scared of it. You do it, you lean into the fear. You go, I'm scared of that, but I think on the other side of it is where the best rewards are. And that's the same in life and in business and in art. The people that we really look at and go, oh, I wish I was doing that. They're not doing it in the absence of fear. They want something badly enough that they're pushing through the fear and leaning into it.
Man, now we're getting into it. I've had recently a number of folks. Tamara Lackey is so funny. She said, "Are you providing subtitles?" Because every time you say something Twitter-worthy, I'm writing it in the chat room. And by the way, if you guys are listening in and you guys want to Twitter these things, just make sure you give David the appropriate credit. But this idea of fear being a marker or an indicator of where you actually ought to be headed, that makes a lot of sense to me. And it's funny, a couple weeks ago, we had the privilege of having Seth Godin on the show, and we were talking specifically about this idea of initiation and taking, like, poking the box, as he calls it, or paying attention to. And he goes lengths to talk about, like, when you're looking for, you know, what should I do, rather than look for some map that someone's kind of prefabricated for you. What if you were to really listen carefully to your life and your circumstances and go, where am I most fearful? And maybe there's a lot of resource around pursuing that in particular. But you're right that this artist as courageous person, um, maybe that's why there's not as many artists as we need in our world. But it does take a degree of courage that I think is uncommon. And I guess that's kind of a synopsis of what I'm hearing you say. I guess my question for you is, um, as you're in these coffee conversations, and like the thing you're doing tonight with Zack Arias in Atlanta, or um, and you're talking with somebody who's just like, yeah, I just want to, I'm scared of this. What should I do? How do you actually direct people? How do you, outside of just kind of sharing your own experience, how do you encourage people to be true to themselves and to pursue these creative acts of courage?
It's a good question. The first thing I would do is refer them to Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, which is not The Art of War. That's a different book. But The War of Art's a profound book, and it talks a lot about fear and art, and it talks about using fear kind of as your guiding, your North Star. That's the indicator of the thing that you probably should be doing, even though you're most nervous about it. But what we do about these things, it's different for everyone. Everyone has different circumstances. But I would say, look at the thing that, life's short. Life is really short, Dane. And, I've had friends that they're battling with cancer right now. And the fact is everyone thinks they're going to live forever, and they're not. And so what are the things that you can't finish your life without accomplishing, and go do them. It's going to cost something. I mean, our society doesn't tell you give up everything that you have and go on the road with a crappy old Land Rover. They, encourage you to buy stuff and keep buying new shiny things. And so it's a little bit countercultural. It's a little bit, I don't know if subversive is the word, but it's different. And the question is, do you want that big screen TV, which is going to break in 3 years and you have to buy another one? Or do you want to have an adventure? Or do you want whatever that, maybe you don't want an adventure, maybe you just want to run a great business. We make choices, we make sacrifices, and I think the places we spend our money on and the places we spend our time on indicate the things that are most important in our lives. The things that we truly love are the things that we spend our money and our time on. So what you do listen to it, and the best things in life that have ever come my way, along with the hardest, are the ones that have come in a context where I had a choice to either be fearful and listen to that fear and run away, or be fearful, listen to that fear, and then lean into it and say, you know what, this is my opportunity to really grow and learn. And maybe you fall on your face 3 times, but that 4th time, if you get it right, that's what I think what greatness is about. And that's not that I'm striving for greatness, but I would love my art to be something more than just, I don't know, crap.
Well, at some level, because I'm hearing a mixed message. On the one hand, you're saying like you only let us attention to what we're up against and the reality of our mortality and what are we supposed to do while we're here. And on the other hand, I mean, I hear some humility in that you're just, don't want to overstate your deposit or your contribution. But shouldn't we actually go for greatness? I mean, that if we only have one shot at this thing and we're swinging the bat hard, I'd rather go for greatness and kind of blow it and fail than just kind of play it safe. At least I say that in theory. I don't feel that way when I'm in the middle.
I hope greatness is a byproduct. But no, I don't want to. I don't think Gandhi strived for greatness. Not to compare myself to Gandhi, but he had goals in mind. He wasn't saying, I want to be great. He was saying, I want to be the following things. Those things made him great. The fact that he accomplished them the way he did. And I think the same is true of artists. If you get an artist that says, I want to be great, frankly, that's probably art that's not worth looking at. If they're courageous and creating art that's honest and transparent and vulnerable and true, then greatness happens. But to pursue it, it's kind of like pursuing the money. If when you're in business, all you do is pursue the money, you're bound to make a lot of decisions that will in fact sabotage getting to the money. You've got to go for it, and you've got to be courageous, but you got to pursue the right things. Just pursuing greatness, I think, rarely results. Because then what are you great at? Being great?
It's funny. A long time ago, um, I read a book called "Forgetting Ourselves on," and actually down at Emory University, and it was it was a course that he taught at Emory on the ethics of ambition. And as I'm hearing you
Mm.
describe like this idea of pursuit of greatness or whatever, it sounds like there's this tension of I'm an ambitious guy, and I know a lot of photographers are ambitious. In fact, I think you're pretty ambitious. The things that you've done, all the great books you've done, Vision Mongers, and all the other products, and yet, how do you kind of tangibly hold that in check? Um, and like again, what this guy suggested was there's actually a way of being where you can intentionally forget about yourself, and then the greatness part kind of dissipates, and you can actually leverage or harness the ambition in a way that's way more constructive. Where it's like, as you'd say, like what Gandhi would do is he was in pursuit of ideals, but there was a self unconsciousness to it in the process that really kept what he created and what he did very pure, and that's what we celebrate now, it seems.
Mm.
Is that a similar tack that you consider, or how do you deal with him?
I think, ultimately, I think it's about humility, Dane. I think, and humility is not that, oh no, I'm not good at this. That's false humility, and I think it's the other side of arrogance. I think
Mm,
humility
mm,
recognizes what you're good at. It recognizes what you're not good at, and in its proper place. There are people that are far better at what they do than I am. There are people that haven't yet found the courage to try to be as good as what they do. So I'm just kind of, you don't want to compare yourself. Comparing yourself is always a losing game. But I think having the humility to just recognize this is what I'm after. I want to leave a legacy. And frankly, I want to enjoy this life. I want to soak up every minute that I've got on this earth because it's going to be brief. If I 40 years, um, if I get that luxury and I can look back on my life, I'm still going to say, wow, that was
mm,
fast. It went fast. And
mm,
so if you want to really do it, that's why vision is, if you just wait for this to all
mm,
accidentally fall into your lap, it's never going to happen. If you want a business
mm,
that thrives, you're going to have to make bold decisions and you're going to have to do them fairly fast because life will go by fairly fast. And so if you're going to
mm,
fail, fail big and fail fast so that you learn your lessons. And, I failed several times on a personal level, on a business level, and I don't seek failure. I would rather not fail. But you learn from your failure. You don't look back except, in gratitude that you survived, and then you keep moving forward.
mm,
But the vision's important. The vision's what
mm.
determines
Yeah,
what
I mean,
forward
on
means.
some level, well, say more about that. Stephen Pressfield earlier, and I'm with you. That's one of the best books I've read in 5 years, and it's something that I am really challenged by. I pulled it out again 2 nights ago and recommended it to 3 people because he just stares resistance in the eye and says, "I will beat you, um, I will
Mm,
overcome you." But that there is vision in to beat up
absolutely.
resistance. It's to go somewhere new. So talk a little bit about the cultivation of that kind of vision that would actually invite resistance because it's such a challenging kind of idea. How do you cultivate that?
I'm not sure if it's about cultivation so much as recognition. I think most people have vision. Everyone's got dreams and ideas and things that are on their bucket list, on their I
Editing.
wish I could do this. And some those look like big items, but everyone thinks their dreams are big. That's why they haven't achieved them yet. They think they're insurmountable. But you look at people like Gandhi, to go back to him, he was just a normal guy. He was just a tiny, frail little Indian guy with a big heart and big ideas, and he just went for it. And it's the same with everyone that's watching. No one is more extraordinary than the other, except that we have as someone else said, the cojones to grab our dream and go for it. And yes, I'm scared
Mm,
about certain things in my life, and I look and I go, oh, how am I going to make it? What if this book fails? What if that fails? But I am more scared of getting to the end of my life and realizing I missed it. I had an opportunity to live to change the world, to influence people, to just enjoy it, like just to travel, to eat great food, to meet different people. I missed that, and I'm more fearful that I would get to the end. And so, in a sense, I'm listening to that fear as well and saying, it's like when I photograph on the streets, people say, oh, I'm so scared of photographing on the streets. I'm scared of photographing on the streets too. I'm just more scared of going home without the photograph. So it pushes me to engage people in a way that I might naturally not do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I had a chance years ago, and I want to hear your response to this. Years ago, I was backpacking and rock climbing out in Joshua Tree National Forest, and there was a small group of us, and there was a guy there who was selling recycled topographical maps, and he was making stationery out of it and selling it, and he was actually raising money for the purpose of do this massive kind of world-class expedition. And he was saving up this money, $5 a thing, and I bought some, and it was really cool. And we got into a discussion that night, and I said, do you ever get scared, doing these kind of world-changing trips, for like personally world-changing? And he said, well, I am scared, but I'm way more scared of not doing it. And that sounded very noble and exciting until 3 months later, when he actually went on the trip. He's a famous climber, and he died on that exact expedition. And I contributed $5 to that effort, and he got what he said. He told me that night when we were on the campfire that it was, they all kind of fall off a ledge or freeze somewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
But he knows that they're all living while they're alive. And I mean, there has to be some skeptic voice in there where it's like, man, is this really for everybody to live this radically out of a vision for what they were made to, out of a fear of maybe not living? Is that what you're describing, or is there some nuance there that for the folks that are just like, yeah, that's too risky? I don't. What do you think?
I mean, not to be too cliche about this, Dane, but to quote Braveheart, all men die, but not all men really live. And yeah, he died climbing K2, but I mean, we're only postponing the inevitable. I mean, none of us live forever. So the fact is, he lived fully while he lived it, and you never know. He may have survived the K2 expedition, come home, been diagnosed with cancer, and died a week later. We all are terminal. We all have a limited lifespan, and so
that's right.
While we try to we pretend that we're going to live forever, the fact is, you need to tell your loved ones that you love them now and every day. And if there's an opportunity, you need to take it now. This idea that I'm going to retire when I'm 65 and then I'll do the things that I was created to do, that I'm called to do, you may not make it to 65. And that, I think, it allows me the luxury of amount of idealism. But again, I mean, we are all going to die. It's just, so the question is, what do you want to do when you're alive to influence the world around you? To even people with children. I have a lot of friends that have kids, and they say, oh, I can't do that kind of thing, I have kids. And my response to them is, what you do will look, but don't leave them with a legacy of risk aversion. Don't leave them living safe and scared to take risks and truly soak every minute of life, because it's all you've got. You have the moments that you make, and you got to either grab them or let them pass you by.
Dude, you're the man. I'm with you, man, and I am grateful for every word you're saying. I also want to keep my word because I know you have to jam, and that's Twitter and stuff. But I want to just publicly thank you for writing the foreword to my book, Fast Track Photography Business Plan. Not only was it an encouragement that you'd even look at it, but that you endorsed it and said that stuff was really, really kind. But I think in many ways, what you've meant to me and kind of challenged me too as I've read your work is very much in line with these things, because I don't think if it wasn't for people like you in my life, kind of living radically, it'd be really tough. So as someone with 4 kids, I'm just conscious of how they're viewing the example I'm setting, not just, and it's just all your words. And for those of you who are listening in, and I know you didn't get to take questions, but about it, It's really an opportunity to have someone like David on the show. And for those of you who are fortunate enough to be down in Atlanta, I hope you guys really enjoy your time in person. And David, I'm buying the coffee and or the beer next time we're together. So,
Great. Well, my pleasure. Dane, I know time is limited, but I got about 6 minutes. If you want to just do a couple quick questions, I'd be happy to stay on and just engage at least the people that have been so patient up till now.
That's great. Well, for those of you, if you want, go ahead and click on the light bulb and jump into some questions. The first one actually is from Tamara Lackey, I think you know from Creative Live. And I love Tamara, that's what she does. But she asked the question, didn't you comment on some weird Amazon book reviews lately? How does that affect you, or does it?
Yeah,
I don't know what the significance of that is, but you probably do.
Yeah, I do. Once in a while, I have this lapse in judgment, and I go online and read the Amazon reviews for my books. And one of two things happens, usually concurrently. I read something that encourages me, and then I read something that I go, oh, that's just like, it's like stabbing me in the heart. And sometimes it gets really personal. And one person was like, oh, the book could have been written in 10 pages. It was too long. This guy probably likes the small. Come on, really? I mean, do we really have to get that personal? And I don't know. I've always been very pretty transparent in my online life. There's not a lot of division between my private and public life. I am who I am. And so I was just kind of airing some dirty laundry and expressing some frustration, because I do this, I do it because I love it. I want to write important books that help people, and to get that kind of review, it's kind of like, you know what, just go crawl back under your rock and just, as Scott Bourne says, everyone's 10 feet tall when they're in their mother's basement. So it's kind of like, just go back to watching Star Trek and leave your misery somewhere else. But the easiest way for me to respond is just to put it on Twitter and kind of exercise the demons. So.
I've gone that road before. Is that when you make a comment, they actually pop to the top of the reviews. So if you want people to read the comments, that's the quickest way to do it. But that's hilarious. And by the way, good for you for being human once in a while. Hey, another question from Miss Emmanuel. What triggered your light bulb moment?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what the light bulb moment is. If it was the moment where I decided sort of that I was going to go ahead and do this, it was, I talked about failure. I also talked about the fact that there's not a lot of division between my personal and my private life. I try to keep some things to myself, but I have been going through a divorce, and it's been difficult and painful. And when that sort of initiated, it was a kind of a shot across my bow about a number of priorities in my life that I'd allowed to slip and change, like my desire to travel. And everyone probably already knows I travel a lot, but I wanted to travel on my terms, and I just wanted to engage in some adventure that I hadn't allowed myself to in the last number of years. And so it was just an opportunity. It gave me a chance to not only pick up the pieces, kind of some of my personal stuff, but to to get out of the house and stop, wallowing in self-pity, and just to go out and have an adventure. So it was born out of an opportunity, and the opportunity was born out of failure. So, it's kind of I don't know, it's my own little redemption moment or something. I don't know.
It's interesting, the reference to the circumstances you're in right now, what you're going through. I just, as a friend, just want to affirm you. And by the way, this whole the idea of sitting around having coffee and letting other folks listen in. But what I would say to you in person and say to you now is just we're going through their own set of circumstances. Interpret from the outside looking in, and regardless of what those are, I think what you're modeling, transparency in a sense of like, walk through it, not around it or over it or whatever. And I think that you're and just really I just want to affirm you for your way of being in the middle of it without knowing the details. I'm glad to be your friend as you're walking through this thing. So, hey,
Appreciate
Zach's
it.
gonna get mad at me now, and when Zach gets mad, who knows what could happen online? So I'm gonna get offline right now. It's 4:59, and we'll call it a day. But thanks again for being on the show, David, and look forward to the next time we get to be together.
Well, absolutely my pleasure. Thank you. And, for everyone that's listening, please feel free to join me on Twitter. That's kind of the place that I'm most interactive. And to everyone that kind of joined in, and Tamara and Kristen and Nicole Young and the whole gang, thank you for being part of it. It was fun.
That's great. All right. See you next time, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Dane. Take care.